Hmm. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that interruption. Welcome to Zita's How to Beginnings World of Women podcast. Today is November the 22nd, and we have in our midst this evening one of our friends. Her name is Amy Verger, and she is with us today to talk about an important issue. Amy is an owner. She's a chief empowerment owner. She is a versatile leader, a creative leader in her own rights. She has all kinds of qualifications, and I would like her to actually formally introduce herself to us. And she's with us today from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I hope everybody's keeping warm over there. The weather is getting unpredictable. So, Amy, over to you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me here with you today, Zita. I appreciate it. So my name's Amy Vaughn. I am the owner and chief empowerment officer of an organization called Together Digital. Together Digital is a national network of women who work in digital marketing and advertising, as well as tech and development. And we choose to share our knowledge, power, and connections through community, through collaboration, because as women, we are underrepresented, employed, and often under-supported in our work environments. Marketing and advertising itself is a very competitive career space. And even though, at least in the United States, women hold about 85% of the buying power within every household, they only represent about 25% of executives within marketing, media, and communications companies. So our community's goal is to help every woman rise by allowing her a safe space to ask for what she needs without any sense of guilt or shame, and to give without any sense of judgment. My background is in digital marketing and advertising. I became a member of this community back in 2016. I was a volunteer and a champion for the Cincinnati chapter. And in 2019, the founder asked me if I would come and run the business while she ran for Congress because a member had encouraged her to do so. So I think we're both really great examples of what women believing and supporting other women can be. I never thought I'd be running and owning my own business, but here I am today, getting to help and pay it forward to lots of other amazing women in our community.
Awesome. Awesome. That is cool. Yeah, talk about how women can empower other women. That is really important this day and age when women are really juggling a whole lot, you know, and sometimes we find little or no time to even take care of ourselves. And women are more engaged in family, in even organizations. They find themselves, they immerse themselves, they want to give the best. And sometimes they forget that they're also human and they need, you know, so yeah. I'm glad that you're with us today. So what actually made you to take up the career path? there are other people who would have, passed this by and say, well, I don't think I want to do it. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more on that?
Sure. I think I've learned that I have felt the most amount of growth in my career and change in the positive direction of my life when I did things that were a little scary. So I kind of had wanted to run and own a business ever since I was a kid. I was always creating new company ideas and business ventures. I remember when I learned about what free enterprise was in the 4th grade, and I was so excited about this. And, it wasn't until I was in my late 30s that, when the founder came to me and was like, will you run this company while I run for Congress? I had kind of voiced that I was interested in being in operations and running a business, but I hadn't fully really let myself even lean in that direction. So I don't know so much that I chose the career path or the career path chose me, because by becoming a part of the community that gave me the confidence and really saw in me the potential to run a business, I don't know that I would have ever gone out and started one for myself. So I do feel like the career path found me. I did spend a lot of my years, 15 years that I was working before running and owning Together Digital. I was doing all of the things. I was moving through the motions. I was a creative in an advertising agency, originally on the copy side, so doing a lot of copywriting. And the natural progression was creative director and then executive creative director. And I remember getting the creative director level and looking around and not seeing another person in the room that looked like me or that much less was female. And so it got really lonely, quote unquote, up at the top. I had the salary that I'd always wanted. I had the title I'd always wanted, but I wasn't happy. The thing that filled me up, the thing that gave me joy, the thing that gave me purpose, the thing that felt like I, work sometimes, but wasn't really work, was the work I did with Together Digital. So it was kind of a no-brainer. It was not a no-brainer. I shouldn't say that. It was scary, again, as hell, to go and leave my career path of 15 years to take a chance on running a business in a community that, I had been a big part of, but then to have that weight on my shoulders of the responsibility and running the day-to-day operations, in a whole new world, having worked for bigger companies and bigger agencies. So it was a big leap for sure. But I have to say, all of the big leaps I've ever taken in my life, they've always been the right choices in the long run, because I've learned something from them, one way or another. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And when you talk about taking a leap of faith, a lot of women really, I think sometimes we underestimate our abilities. And until you get into that position and unleash your talents, you're like, wow, I didn't know I can do this. And that's why, but I think a lot of research these days are beginning to affirm women that we really have talents, we have qualities that can really carry us along. That's how we are made, actually. When you look around and see what women do, even from the grassroots, we tend to underestimate our power, really. And that's why my organization, we are trying to, in addition to actually reducing maternal and infant mortality here and elsewhere in the world, we are also trying to encourage women, challenge them, invite them, empower them to really be who you are, because that is who we are. It's just that for some reason, whether that is in our mentality or brainwashing or whatever, we've been brainwashed to some extent to believe, not to believe in ourselves. Yet when we look around, you see what women do every single day, and those things they accomplish are being taken for granted. And not anymore. That's what research is saying, not anymore. A lot of women in the past 10 years are now being entrepreneurial, They're
Mhm.
being really at the forefront of all kinds of businesses, whether name it, healthcare, accounting, real estate,
Yeah.
whatever. And what that is actually depicting is that, yes, we can,
Mhm.
so nobody can actually tell us anymore that we cannot do it. It's a
Right.
matter of, talking to other women and
Mhm.
encouraging them to really come on, let's do this. Yes, we can. So why don't we do it? So in that case, my next question is, how would you really impact other women in businesses? Whether it's healthcare, wherever you see them,
Yeah.
especially those who feel like you felt at some point that, you were doubtful.
Yeah.
What would you really tell them right now that you know that you have accomplished a lot?
Right. Oh gosh, so many things that you said resonate, make sense, and that I have a million comments on. But to just answer the question, um, you know, I think understanding and knowing that no one is ever going to believe in you more than you are going to believe in you. No one is going to get you over the scary things. You have to be the one to embrace the fear and the challenges and be willing to know and trust yourself. I think there's something I'm learning a lot lately. Maybe it's part of a midlife crisis. I don't know. A lot about and embracing for the first time my feminine energy. Because for so long, when I was a young girl, I really just preferred to hang out with boys. Girls were mean to each other. They were mean to me. I was bullied a lot. And I just had an easier time hanging out with the guys, even if they were a little more rough, even if we would tease and taunt each other. It wasn't in the same sort of spirit. It was almost in like camaraderie versus, competing and butting heads. And so for the longest time, I thought I had to act and behave in a lot of ways more masculine in order to succeed. And I had to befriend the men and avoid the women for the longest time. And so somewhere between middle age and raising a daughter and, running an organization full of women, I really learned to embrace my feminine energy and to embrace my womanhood and to own it and know that I can create a community and a culture within my business and lead with that energy and make decisions with that energy, because it's that energy that has brought life into the world, thankfully, that has helped to raise two children. And you don't have to be maternal, obviously, to like own your womanhood. I'm not saying that. But, there was just for so long, I didn't do that. So I would say for a lot of women who probably think I have imposter syndrome, I have this, that, or the other, I lack confidence, that's really not your voice. That's the rest of the world. And that's the deep set programming that you've gotten through social conditioning. And we talk about this a lot at Together Digital, even though we focus on digital marketing and advertising and we nerd out over things that are cool about tech. Deep down, we all identify as women and we all go through life stages and phases in which there's commonalities and things in which we need to share. And so giving women a safe space to be fully themselves, even if it's just in our online community and our in-person events, they might not get it anywhere else. They might not even get it at home. They get it somewhere to be able to, just lean into who they are as a woman and to feel empowered by that versus limited by that. Because again, all of that talk, all of that doubt, it is not your voice. I can promise you that. It's the things you've been told since you were probably 5 years old as a girl, when you were told, oh, you're just so bossy, instead of being called a leader. Or when you get older in your 20s and in a review, you get called aggressive and dominating. I had that happen with me once. A boss like relayed that feedback to me. And I was like, would you be saying this to me if I was a guy? And he said, well, yeah, of course. I said, I want you to go back, because we had a whole system for the note taking. I said, I want you to go back and I want you to look and see. In all the years you've been doing reviews, have you ever pulled forward the language from anybody else that they're aggressive and dominating if they were a man? And he's like, I'll look. he looked. He's like, he came back and apologized. He says, no, I've never used those words in a review for a male colleague before. I said, because yeah, you would have called him a leader. You would have called him a champion. You would have called him passionate. But because it was coming from me and it wasn't your kind of predetermined stereotypical female behavior, you wanted to call it something different. So my advice would definitely be to, not saying be completely blind and not self-aware. Self-awareness is key. But part of being self-aware is not just focusing on your weaknesses, it's also focusing on your strengths.
Absolutely, really well said. When you talked about embracing more feminine energy, I think, and I'm saying this is only my own opinion, but coming in from a profession that is predominantly women.
Yeah.
I'm a nurse, I'm a midwife. So these two professions are really women-owned, put it that way. And what happens is, excuse me, because of the brainwashing, like I call it, I think all of us are sometimes submerged in this whole situation that we are helpless. We don't even know how to lift ourselves, not to talk about lifting the other person up.
Yeah.
And instead of, what happens in that system is, instead of us trying to help one another, we tend to go the opposite direction, pulling each other down. We know we're already down, but we're doing it, we're making it worse for us because we're really helpless. For me, that's really a cry of helplessness, and given the kind of trauma that goes with caring for people, caring for family, caring for everybody in the whole world, getting little or no attention to yourself. It's like, oh my goodness, this is when, initially I didn't say it that way, but with time and a reflection, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm doing to me. And I'm also having that tendency to do it to another woman.
Yes.
How that works.
Totally. And it reminds me a lot. I just had this really great, I think we mentioned earlier, I read a podcast as well called The Power Lounge. And I just had a guest in, Kay McLaughlin, and we just talked about this. And I love the language. I feel like anytime we can receive language in order to frame up an idea or a situation, it's so freeing. And so hers, I don't think she did not coin it. I can't remember the name of the woman who coined it. I can look it up and send it to you later, but it is called human giver syndrome. And it's the idea is that we spend our lives accommodating, adjusting everything about what we do, how we do it, how we show up in a room, how we appear physically, to make other people more comfortable, so much so that we become a human giver versus a human being. Instead of just being, we literally are making every choice and decision, from our hair to our clothes, to our jobs, to our families, all about making other people feel more comfortable and less awkward. And that discussion, it just ripped so many of us open. We're like, oh, you all feel so seen right now. But I feel like, Sita, that's 100% what you're talking about. It's just falling into this trap of human giver syndrome, and women caretakers fall right into that space. So
yeah, absolutely. And I feel, the more we realize it, the more we want to talk about it, the more we want to, like sing it like a song, make sure it gets into from our mind to our heart.
Yeah.
So we know who we are and start to live from there. Because until we recognize what we're doing to ourselves, you rightly said, you're the only one. You're going to have to believe in yourself. No one can do it for you.
No.
So we must get to that point where we say, oh my goodness, I'm doing this to myself.
Yeah.
No one is going to remind you. They will continue to take advantage of you. So I am so glad that the more we get women who are being entrepreneurs, the more they challenge really for us to recognize that there are a whole lot of women out there who don't even think that they're worth anything. So we use that platform, we use our privilege, whatever it is, to call on those women, invite them, challenge them, nudge them to really own who they are. Because the more we encourage women to really retake who they are, the more empowering they become, in self-care and more care to family. But this is really, and this goes into healthcare, and this actually spills over to our physical illness and wellness. You find women getting all kinds of diseases and not even caring to take care of themselves because they're busy taking care of the rest of the world. So for me, it's really disheartening to recognize that, but it is also an opportunity, an opportunity for all of us to really help one another in that, and in any aspect of any slightest opportunity we find ourselves, just talk about it. See how women feel about it. What can we do collectively to move forward? So I am so glad that you know this and that you have talked about it in your own circle. So for me, this is it's a priority, and we all need to really focus on that and see how we can help oneself and help one another. So you have kids, you said, and your business is really a good one and really prominent and enticing. My question to you is, how would you really use that platform to support, young women, to support kids, and to support women themselves, especially those of them who are still not able to stand on their 2 feet?
No, exactly. Yeah. The organization, we've partnered with a lot of other organizations. So one of my favorite ones is Innovation Girls. It's an international platform for young women between the ages of 7, I think, to 14. And what they do is they actually get brought into large organizations with specialized projects to help with innovation. And Innovation Girls teaches them design thinking and presentation skills. And I've been able to go and watch and support these young women. I've been an advisor and a mentor to some of them, to hear them and see them get up on stages in front of executives and pitch ideas that you would imagine came from adults. We really underestimate the creativity and imagination of our young girls, especially because we know by the data and science that as young as the age of, 7, they start to lose interest in STEM activities. So science, technology, engineering, and math. And so Innovation Girls really focuses on that. So a number of our members have been volunteers for the organization. As I said, I've kind of served as an advisor for the group as well. And they're trying to make it a global, worldwide platform where they do a lot of VR headset type of work as well with the girls. So they're getting to do some pretty awesome stuff. Like I said, I have my own 2 kids, my daughter and my son, just trying to always keep an open and honest conversation about them with gender lines. It is amazing because our kids receive so many messages and information, so much more than any of us previous generation folks did, to the point that, I just cited that at the age of 7, girls start to lose their confidence. I would claim it's even younger. We were laying in bed one night and it was after this lunar eclipse, or no, solar eclipse. Sorry, this was a few years back. And my daughter had a lot of questions about it. So we were reading science books about why, the solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, why these happen. And we had been reading, some books about the first moon landing. And I said, do you ever think you'd want to be an astronaut? And 4 years old, she says, Mommy, I can't be an astronaut. And I said, well, honey, why not? She says, because I'm not a boy. And I just wanted to throw the book that I was holding and be like, where the heck did you hear a thing like that? And I just asked her, I was like, honey, why would you ever have that idea? And she says, because all the astronauts in the books are boys. So I definitely started buying different books. We started watching, some of the space landings and the spacewalks that had happened recently at the International Space Station that were women. She now knows that many, many women have been and will be astronauts. It's not her chosen career path anymore. Totally fine. But I just was so surprised. As far as college age women, we have a special program, a mentor circle program, where we bring women in from historically Black universities and colleges to be members of Together Digital for 1 year. And then they're also paired up with a mentor, because another big aspect of keeping women in STEM is making sure that they have mentorship, because especially female mentorship, because we have certain stages in our life. The hormones are fluctuating, things are changing about our body. Our lives just run differently, and not to have someone in a space that succeeded and worked beyond that to be a guide and a mentor for you, to show you that it can be done, is a lot of the reason why many women who work in STEM, namely technology, don't get past mid-career level, because the culture is not accommodating to it. Societally, there's a ton of pressures on these women to do other things other than just focus on their jobs. So we try to find ways to mentor and support university level women through the mentor mentee program. And then we also have a mom's peer circle group that meets once a month with Together Digital. And, I'll be honest, I was not the kind of person who sat around thinking about the days when I would have children. I never even knew if I would want to have children. I kind of was like married young, and we traveled and we lived in different countries. And I was always focused on my work. And we finally came back to Cincinnati, like moved around for 10 years, came right back where we started. And it wasn't until 12 years after we were married that we even started discussing the possibility of having children. And then, of course, there's the fear of like, will it happen? How will it go? All these different things. And at the time, like I said, I was working at an agency 60, 70 hours a week, not conducive for, somebody going through the trials and tribulations of trying to become pregnant, like a miscarriage. That's really hard. Like, you have to show up at work and pretend like everything's fine. So many women go through this, and so many women don't get to talk about it, especially in the workplace. So we created our Moms Peer Circle group to help all of our moms to be, stepmoms, single moms, you name it, caretakers, just to have a safe space to come together once a month, give ourselves an hour, check in with each other, see how we're doing personally and professionally, and just really share the things that are working for us. And like, the beauty of it is, like you said earlier, when you're brainstorming and you're bringing more people into the conversation, our experiences are so different, yet they happen to all of us. And so it's one of those things where when you have people in the room who are either going through it, have already gone through it, there's going to be some good ideas in the room, some really good ways to work through some of the things that you're working through. And even if you can't find solutions, you find solidarity, because the other women sitting on the other side of that conversation are like, oh my God, yes, I've been there. No, I don't have the answer, but I've been there. So yeah, that's kind of, the long and the short of how we try to help women at all ages and stages.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And that's a saying that a problem shared is a problem half solved.
Yes.
And that goes a lot for me, for women, because we really do well. We know how to do coordination. We know how to gossip sometimes. We know how to, do anything when it comes to communal life. Women are inherently gifted that way. Yes. And when you say something about your daughter, the conversation you guys had about the astronaut, and at that age, she was able to voice what she is saying, what is in her head already. And it doesn't surprise me, because you know what? At 4, when you reflect back now, if you go to the toy store, if you go there today, you see toys for men.
Yep.
They are talking about stuff that they can football. It's something to do with activity, like the astronaut thing. There are people driving cars. And what do you see in the women's section?
Yeah.
It's braiding hair. It's like holding flower. It's like dressing, because men want women to dress for them, to live for them.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous. So it starts from that toy of given hand, you pass on 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, by the time they're 5, it's already formed in their head that,
Yep.
well, maybe this is my pathway, this is the other person's pathway. You
Well, a
know,
lot of things are like how our brain works, right? From a human, just neurological standpoint, is we want shortcuts. We want to be able to put things in nice, neat little boxes. And I think that's where a lot of
right.
not just children struggle, but full-blown adults struggle. Because my son, who's a boy, born a boy, identifies as a boy, will see somebody with long hair and he'll be like, that's not right. That's a boy. He shouldn't have long hair. And I'll say, there's nothing to say that long hair is for boys
Right.
and girls and short hair is for boys. Like your grandma has really short hair and you don't think she's a boy. He's like, well, that's true. So really just kind of, again, like there's only so much you can do because there's so much societal conditioning happening. Like you said, from shows, from kids at school to walking down the toy aisle, that's just really pounding these messages of, gender separation and whatnot in these kids' heads. And I know that there's organizations and places that are trying to start to absolve some of that or try to solve for some of that, but we definitely have a long way to go. And I actually feel like I feel like for a little, like for a hot minute, we actually got more like dramatic in like the male female separation for a bit. And only now is it starting to kind of come back more to neutral ground. Because in the 80s, I remember playing with Hot Wheels and G.I. Joes and, having cars and toys that were more boy-like. I remember the Legos weren't just pink or blue. They were just primary colors. And now Legos, they go either very masculine or very feminine. It's hard to find very gender neutral, even something as big as Lego. I could be wrong. Tell me anybody if you're a Lego fan. But yeah, I definitely have noticed it. And then toys and in kids' books and things like that. So definitely a good place to start if we're looking to make some change.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, when you talk about family, that's where it starts. As soon as the woman gets pregnant, she starts learning how to parent.
Yeah.
Even the guy, they start learning how to parent. One of the things you first want to think about is, okay, what is the sex and what am I expected to, how am I expected to raise a boy or a girl or whatever. But I'm glad that gradually this awareness is coming, so we will keep at it. We're not going to give up. It's going to take a while because it took centuries, to really brainwash us. It's going to really take that long, I'm afraid, for us to get through it or get over it. So, but creating awareness, staying on top of it, for me is very critical. So thanks for sharing. And I'm going to call on our audience. Really, Amy has given us a whole lot of food for thought and shared her business with us. So unmute, make your comment or ask questions. This is your time to do that. And Amy, please, can you put your information on the chart?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and joining us today, Amy.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Emily. Just dropped my email address in there and you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm on there pretty often.
All right.
Link.
All right. Thank you.
So Amy, Kurt and I have a couple other podcasts that we do. And if you're interested, we'd love to have you on either of those two. But we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought I would offer.
Yeah, no, that sounds fabulous. I love talking about all this stuff. So yeah, I'm happy to. Anything I can do to help and support.
So,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Amy, one question I want to ask you is that as you got into all this podcasting and with the organization and coaching, consulting, everything you've been doing into your adventures, have you had any striking moments whereas, other women are coming on, you're doing activities, I guess you're doing all this work.
Yeah.
Are there things that stick out for you that have been very impactful for you and have been a little bit of a wow factor? Like, helped you refine what you set out to do initially?
That's a great question, Kurt. It's a big one too. I kind of just feel like that is right now my everyday in a crazy way, because I'm either talking to and interviewing really amazing, successful, talented, and generous women on the podcast, or I'm talking with really talented, generous, and amazing women that are members. So I think the privilege that of my job, and like the biggest kind of wow of it all, is just that there are so many amazing, talented and generous people who are willing to share what they know and do it in a way that's really authentic. We had a podcaster on last week that talked about how she's a serial entrepreneur. I don't even think she's 40 yet. She doesn't look 40 to me even. And she's run 2 or 3 different businesses, and she's starting a community herself for entrepreneurs. I should connect you all. And so talented, yet she was willing to, share on the podcast that she suffered from a lot of anxiety, depression, and imposter syndrome, and really struggled sometimes with, kind of being the sort of leader that was making really rapid decisions and wanting to move things sometimes faster than her team was ready to. And so through her course of, communication with her team and self-awareness, she's been able to sort of, throttle, for lack of a better term, her kind of speed in which she meets her team. The podcast on human giver syndrome was really amazing as well. We've been getting back to in-person events, which is also nice. I had the head of digital and marketing for Fifth Third Bank, which is probably one of the largest banks in the country, get up on our stage and talk about how she cried in the bathroom stall on day 3 of her new job when they moved her from New York to Cincinnati, because nobody had asked her to lunch and she didn't feel included. And her message was, if you want to feel included, include others. Her coming in and being such a powerhouse, well known from New York to Cincinnati, people were intimidated. It happens to women, especially who are comfortable and confident with who they are and what they do. People get intimidated, but what they don't realize is that woman is just like any other human and needs connection and needs to know that she's, welcome in a new space. So when you've left your home state and you're in a new place, yeah, it seems like you would just sit back and wait for everybody to invite you to lunch. So she decided to start to invite other people to lunch. I loved hearing that. I started running the business right before COVID hit. And it was probably, maybe like speakers aside, the wow factor to me there was that, this moment of tremendous fear and lack of certainty that an organization like ours could exist without in-person events for however long COVID was going to keep us from doing that. If I go back, there were definitely many a times I was ready to sort of give up. So me having like a monthly check-in with one of my mentors in particular, there's a set of questions he always asks me. And I think that's when I get to take a minute and meet and appreciate myself and give myself a little bit of a wow moment when we talk about the things that we set out. And I said, this is what I'm going to do this year, like launch a podcast and like buy the business when I eventually bought my business partner out. Just taking a moment to reflect and having someone to share those moments that you really should celebrate. I think ambitious women in particular, we tend to just want to keep plowing through next success, next success, next success. A couple of things I've really learned to embrace is the here and the now, and know that happiness does not require perfection, and neither does accomplishment. Even though I haven't achieved everything maybe that I've set out to achieve or hit numbers that I would like to have hit, there's still so many more other wins and successes that I've had. So those are a couple of guests out of probably over 100 that I've talked to in the last year. There's probably a lot more. I should just sit down and write a whole book on it. I've got to meet so many amazing women. It is part of my job to interview them and meet them. And then, that time with myself as well, giving myself a little bit of time to reflect and have a little bit of a wow moment for myself. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, very insightful. You have quite the journey going on. So congratulations. Thanks for what you're doing. And so, yeah, I've been learning in the last 40 minutes. It's been great.
Okay. I'm so glad to hear it, Kurt. Hi, puppy.
And I think in all your achievements, the most important, if you ask me, is being a mom.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
that's a responsibility that you come home to 24/7. I mean, you do it in the morning, you do it in the afternoon, in the evening, before you go to bed, when you wake up. I mean, like, yes, it's round the clock responsibility. Even when they're grown, you're still connected one way or the other. So that is a responsibility that never goes away until life ends. So that's why I really applaud moms, because it is not an easy job. And it's a one job that they have taken without complaining, and they have taken it without even sharing the details. And there's always the downside to that, because you must share, how you feel, good and bad alike, so that you can take credit for what you've done. And that's part of why women are like the way we are most of the time, because we think, well, it's my responsibility. I have to do it. Nobody else will do it. So yeah, and I applaud you for that, for being a mom, and all moms who are out there doing all they need to do in addition to being moms.
Yeah. Raising humans. It is. I agree with you 100%, Zita. Like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time daydreaming about having kids and raising them, but now that I have them, it is an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing journey. Nothing will teach you more than getting that mirror that is called your own child, saying and doing the things that you're like, oh, shoot, and just having the opportunity to hopefully give them the tools and the resources that maybe your mom couldn't give you because she didn't have those tools and resources. So, I think that's what I love about my work, is that while my daughter's not and my son aren't, digital marketing advertisers, there's so much about what we talk about self-awareness, about, community, about collaboration, about the strength and the power of women, that, I hope it's setting a good example for them so that they can even be better parents than I am. That's but yeah.
Yeah, and it is, I'm glad you shared that, because then it is you, because you don't give what you don't have. So whatever steps you're setting for them now is what they're going to carry along. And that's why I always encourage moms to really slow down. Make sure you spend quality time with your kids, because they grow so fast. Before you know it, they're out there. And you don't want to live, regretting what you forgot or didn't do well. You give them your best. It's hard, yes, but you will never regret what you've given to your kids. So I like what you just shared, and I hope other parents are really listening and are able to, just stimulate what you're doing and do to the best of their ability.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think that is a challenge for moms. I don't know. You probably see a lot where it's just that comparison. The comparison is the killer of anything that you can ever possibly have confidence in. Like, you should never be comparing yourself to other people, other parents, other professionals, even, because their world and their situations, their privilege or lack of privilege is so different than yours. And there's no perfect way to parent. At least in my opinion, I'm just trying to model being a good human for my kids the best that I can. And that definitely does not mean being perfect. They've seen me mad. They've seen me cry. They know I have feelings. I mean, I remember growing up, and I don't really remember ever seeing my mom cry until I was a teenager, maybe older. And definitely not my dad. although now that he's in his mid 60s, he's like, he gets a little teary over everything. It's all cool, Dad. I love it. He's like emotion, but that's, I think that's the opportunity we have. It's not about being the perfect parent. It's just being as good of a human as you possibly can to help model for them what it means to go out into the world and hopefully, inspire and maybe make more humans if they feel so inclined.
Right. Yeah.
So Amy, what I want to ask you is, what is your dream all about? What is a grand slam home run? What is your splash in life? What does it look like when you've reached your destination and your legacy is built? What is it?
That's so interesting that you asked that, because I get really reflective at the end of the year, and do a lot of looking back and then thus kind of thinking forward. And I'm a huge fan of mindfulness and the practice of non-attachment, non-permanence, impermanence, things like that, and non-judgment. And so I'm not trying to skirt the question, I promise. I honestly feel like the here and the now, I feel so very fortunate to be in a place where I have a roof over my head. My house is warm despite the fact that it's cold outside. I can go to the store and I can buy groceries. That is my home run. I've made it. The icing on the cake is that I get to do work that I'm passionate about and that I love. But that's just the extra bonus. And again, because I'm all into mindfulness and impermanence, I've had that thought where I was and I don't want to jinx myself. I'm not super superstitious, but if something was to happen to me tomorrow, or if I was to know that things would be over for me soon, which could always be the case for any of us, I feel like the last few years, I've just been able to come at peace with who I am and what I'm doing, and not letting it be defined by my title, my salary, or my possessions in a way that's really freeing. And so I don't know that there's ever going to be a knock it out of the park kind of sense. I sort of get that every day. Like I said, that I get to lay down and snuggle with my kids, recognize that I have a roof over my head, that I have food in my fridge, because I could have so much less. So it really makes it hard for me to want more. I think I'm just really happy with where things are now. I love being in a space where I'm more at peace with myself, my own mind, and my body at 41 than I've ever been in my entire life. So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of there. And if this is peak, then fine, bring it. It's peak. If I get to something more, yeah, fantastic. I just would want it to be associated with, honestly, my impact on helping others, sort of feel the same way, feel that sense of accomplishment without looking at it as only a salary or a pay raise, although we do help plenty of women get those through the organization by helping them with their negotiation skills and strategies and communications and confidence. But I already know, after having chased that stuff for 15 years, that's just not what's going to bring me happiness per se. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. I like the whole thing, the whole state of gratitude that you express there, and contentment, because whatever we do in life, unless one gets to that point where you're contented with whatever it is that you have, you won't be happy.
Yeah.
Because happiness is not about all that I can, grab, or all that I can enjoy, but what is important is the state of your mind, the state of your heart.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Hannah, you want something? You have something to share? Unmute, please.
Amy, your presentation was fantastic, and you're making a difference in many, many lives. You're touching so many lives, and you're giving so much love. I can see that. You're about love, and you're touching so many people, and you're making a difference, and that's what we all want to do.
Yeah.
Making a difference in other people's lives, being a role model, empowering women.
Yeah. I thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that so much. I really do. And yeah, you don't have to like make a huge career shift and leap like me. I mean, I do believe in being brave and being bold and being fearless, but sometimes being brave, bold, and fearless means being kind to the person next to you that isn't like you. It is like making sure that people that are in the room feel seen when you're worried about being seen. So yeah, I think that's one. I always find that striking. A lot of the younger women and even like mid-career women will ask like, how do I become a leader? How do I be a leader like you, Amy? And I'm like, well, I have never really seen myself as such. I've just been dubbed one since a child. But I said, honestly, I think it's just the way in which you choose to show up. It's not your title. It's not where you are within the company. We all have the opportunity to lead. We all have the opportunity to impact other people's lives. It's kind of just a choice, it's a choice in how you show up, and it's a choice in how you behave in your everyday. And I mean, I could be working at a checkout at a grocery store and I would still want to like have people feel, I was a barista for a while and I loved it because again, I could have people feel seen and heard. I knew their regular drinks. I knew their name and it felt so good for them to be seen. I was like, I like this too. So yeah, I appreciate it, Hannah, but I want to encourage everybody listening that, you all are just as equally as capable.
Yes.
You know, Amy, you're remembered by how you make people feel.
Yeah.
That's how you're remembered.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, that was really powerful. And yeah, as women, we are leaders. Everybody is called to be a leader. Taking care of yourself and then moving on to care for next person beside you, whether the person is in your family or in your circle or wherever. That's what we're all called to be. And I know we cannot do that without what we call God, with support from God, your higher power, or whatever it is that is really keeping you, on track. To be a human being, because that is all all we need, just to treat one another as human beings. And that really makes our world a better place. So thank you so much, Amy. I really applaud what you do, who you are, and I pray that you continue to shine that light, to especially women. I'm not saying that men are not really. Of course, you have a son too, so continue to hone him to understand, what the society is throwing at them. I really feel sorry for young people. And I don't know how they're going to cope with all of that, but I believe that if parents are able to focus on what is important in life, they will all scale through. And I also recognize the challenge. But that is how we need to actually turn to that higher power that really strengthens us every day, and get the energy we need on a daily basis to do what we are called to do. So this podcast is brought to you by Word of Ability Podcast in collaboration with Transform You Network and Park. And I want to really acknowledge, their help again, and they help us to actually use this platform to reach our audience. So I'm glad we have listened to Amy share with us. Please connect with Amy. Her information is on the chart, and learn more about how we can help ourselves as women and help our community and help our world. So thank you all of you for coming this evening. Word of Women Word of Women podcast is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So please share the information. You're welcome to join us anytime you're available to do that, Amy. I know you have a tight schedule. And just share our information, and we're glad for this evening that you have shared a lot with us. So thank you all. Anyone with any final closing remark If not, I'm gonna say thank you all and see you next week at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you so much, Zeta. I'm really excited to let the rest of our Together Digital community know about you as well. So they'll be tuning into the podcast, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Have a blessed evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.